Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching the Daily Report. Time now for the conversation tonight on the future of leadership right here on the Daily Report with my guest, who is none other than the Honorable Njeri Maina, the woman representative for the county of Kirinyaga, County 020, I believe.
Yes.
She is also an advocate of the High Court of Kenya and a commissioner for oaths. All those titles that you back, and you're not yet, you're in the segment that you say has not yet crossed over the 30 mark, or you're already over that?
No, I turned 30 this year.
You turned 30 this year.
Yes.
And of course you fall now in the young parliamentarians of the country. And every time we see, each parliament coming up, and having a high number of young legislators, and this has been the highest so far. When you look at your tenure and your term since 2022 September thereabouts, what is that one thing that perhaps you could say you're proud of as a young parliamentarian and also as a member of the Young Parliamentaries of Kenya?
First of all, let me thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
The last time I saw you, I think I was just newly minted politician.
Yes, you're very, very new.
I just come aboard this political ship.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful so far for the journey. I think what I'm really proud of since I took all the office is that I have managed to keep my grounded character. And, it's so easy to get lost in there. You come in, you have cars, you have security, it can get very flashy very fast. And you just sort of lose touch with who you are, why you came there, what informs you, what you really want to do for your people and how you want to represent them. So what I am very proud of is that amidst all that razzmatazz and, the grandiose of politics, I've been able to just manage a low profile and be very grounded as I was raised. And of course, as a young member of parliament, that I have managed to exercise a bit of independence, even when there are so many competing interests. And I think a good example was during the recent finance bill, where I voted against a party position. So for me, that's really critical.
Yeah, and it's a thing I actually want us to focus on for a while. You voted no to the finance bill. You are a party member of the UDA party, the ruling party, and it was an unpopular decision for you to vote against it. Was it a difficult decision for you to make? Oh,
it was. Because in politics, there are quite a number of competing interests. You have the party position, so you also have to balance your politics in regard to that. You have the people's position, and then you also have perhaps even your interest, because every human being is informed by interest, the hierarchy of needs. And you find that those interests are competing oftentimes. So for me, I think looking deeply at it and just introspecting, I thought, well, the people's position should take supreme lead when these interests are competing against each other. And it was quite difficult because the party had pronounced itself, the leadership of the House had pronounced itself. I am elected through a UDA ticket, and of course, even given the fact that I'm also a young politician, and there are so many political undercurrents in politics. So for me, it was such a hard decision. I remember I called my mom in the morning and I told her, Mom, I want us to pray. And she was like, what is wrong? What has happened? And I told her, nothing wrong. I just really want us to pray. So, because I really felt I needed even that emotional support. So it was quite a difficult decision, given that I was going against the grain in every literal way. But I felt that it was the right thing to do. And I said, well, if there will be any consequences to be born out of my decision to take an unpopular position with my party, then I will be ready to bear them as a responsible leader.
You know, in the meantime, there were, you know, several undertones and a few issues that happened, especially in the finance bill. We did see that the president along the way came up with resolutions, and we'll be getting to that as well. Some of the resolutions, there was what the Gen Z said, and you did say, you know, especially on X, that, dear Gen Zs, I believe you should have engaged the president and proposed a well-thought-out plan, perhaps even cabinet nominees, and that's something that you stood for. Do you think that as young parliamentarians, you have made the Gen Zs proud?
I can't really speak collectively, because then I would be speaking on behalf of my fellow colleagues, and it would be unfair to them. But what I can say is, as Njeri Maina, I have done what is right by the young people and by the people of Kirinyaga County who elected me. And even the conversation, or rather the advice, I call it unsolicited opinion, to the young generation. It was just a structured way of engaging government, because there's only two ways to participate in governance. One, you can either be in the system, that means you're elected in various positions, whether they're political, board positions, or you can run the system. That means you're the one who is deciding who is in the elective positions. And there's no other way within the confines of the law to run or engage the system. So for me, perhaps I feel that there was no well thought out plan on what next from here, you know?
Yeah, and you know, because it was, looking at this whole thing, the Leaderless Movement, the Tribeless, the Partyless, it really advocated for several issues, and some have argued that perhaps it was important to, you know, establish and have a leader. Do you hold that view, that it is important maybe for them to have a leader?
I think at some point they have to really pick a direction, or someone that they feel that, you know, perhaps leans on their thought process or their ideologies. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have a leader, then there's no one to engage with. If you don't have a leader, then you have to be that leader. So they either have to decide at some point whether they actually want to vie for political positions in 2027, or they will have a candidate that they will choose to back and have a draft of issues that they want addressed. Because I do understand that it's very important for them at the beginning to be very amorphous, because that means then if you have a leader, I can come and say, well, I'll offer you this XYZ amount, agree to this position, and then you throw the entire movement into confusion. But then at the end of the day, to engage government, if they want structured conversations, ultimately they do have to pick at least people who represent their interests. And
yesterday the president was in the town hall. First of all, what do you make of the presidential town hall yesterday in the coastal city of Mombasa? He said it is going to be the first of many. Is this an appropriate way to engage, you know, the electorate? In your view?
I think what the president is doing is within his mandate. And he's a very seasoned politician, so he knows best what will serve his administration, and even perhaps help him have a peaceful tenure in government. But I think the way we've been doing things for a very long time, what the young people were telling us is that it's not working anymore. The way we fashioned our politics, our governance structure, the whole system. Unfortunately, this cannot change overnight, because change, even if it's radical, it takes time to cascade and to just have things we really can't be proud of. So for me, I think there's a way that politics or governance has been ran for so many years in this country. And, you know, the president is a student of former presidents like Moi.
Yes.
The Kibaki government also served in it. And we'll take some time to see the new crop of leaders who are informed by different eras like this one. And,
you know, the issue of the Genzi movement, in terms of the demands that the youth and the Gen Z put out there, first of all, do you associate with them? And what do you say, okay, and associate and say, perhaps this is good, this can wait, this can take a longer time?
Those are raft of issues, but I know what cuts across even millennials is the high rocketing unemployment levels, an environment that's not conducive for businesses. We're stifling businesses with the excessive taxation, and they're also saying that the corruption in government, which we have seen has really cost the Kenyan taxpayer money. And sometimes even we have questions of whether the funds that have been borrowed, even by previous administrations, whether they have been utilized as per they were supposed to be. So with those issues I do, because they are issues of system failures and governance. But then I think I also picked an issue with, there was a hashtag Ruto must go, because at the end of the day, we would not want to spiral down to anarchy. We want to be able to also live in a country that is peaceful and one that is stable. And I tell people they haven't seen the full extent of anarchy. I've been to South Sudan, and it's not anything you would wish for a country that you love. So we must not demand for change to the extent of calling for anarchy. And I mean, the Constitution has provided for scenarios of maybe what would happen if say, like the demands as they were going, Ruto must go. So I found it quite a bit disinformed, because then they didn't have the full information of what is provided within the confines of the law.
And is the way the president is addressing these things one that would be perhaps in your liking, even as a leader, as a parliamentarian, be one that is, seeking to address the burning issues that the Gen Z have raised, and by extension the millennials?
I think there's quite a bit of disconnect with the interpretation of what the Gen Zs were trying to tell us, or rather the people in government, because their core concerns were unemployment, corruption, and then of course the business environment, and wanton misuse of public resources. So we still yet to really grasp, I think, the full picture and the situation. The way we say vitu kwa ground ni tofauti, because having a new set of CS nominees does not address issues of unemployment. It does not address issues of corruption. But I have seen that also the president has pronounced himself on the passport and the free catered for by government travel for overseas jobs. So that is also trying to see how we can offload the burden of unemployment. But what I insist is that these issues have been there for many years.
How logical
it's a system.
How logical is that solution, especially if you stick on that for a minute? Because I mean, some have argued, how then do you go ahead and book flights and embark on that endeavor quite smoothly?
I think allow me to just walk you through it, because I think I have had a conversation with the president in regard to that.
Okay.
And there was this program that was being offered by the Ministry of Labor, the one that was previously headed by Florence Bore. Yes. And there were like around 2,500 job opportunities, somewhere in Saudi, somewhere in, I think,
Turkey?
Turkey and United Arab Emirates. And what the challenge was is that most of these young people, fresh off campus, you have your papers, but then you are not able to facilitate the agency fee that is required and the travel fee for the ticket. So we had discussions around, one, you're going to be signing a contract to work for, say, maybe 300,000 a month, right? Just an example. So the government comes in, makes it easier, the process of agency fee and the flight booking, but then the agreement is that you will be, it's sort of like an advancement. You'll be able to also pay that amount back from the contract that you have. Because the agency fee was so expensive for majority of Kenyans. So you find even if politicians chip in, it's like maybe, I remember there's a time it was around 500,000. So imagine just paying the agency fee, 500,000. There's a job opportunity, but between you and that job opportunity that you really want to take, there's just an uphill of 500,000. So the government caters for the agency fees, travel costs, but then also it is reimbursed from the contract that you're going to undertake.
And that has brought another conversation of exporting labor. I mean, juxtapose and vis-a-vis a country which is struggling with high levels of unemployment, and then in this situation, pretty much exporting labor, if you would call it Mahesh. And then you now look at the juxtaposition of the promise of creating jobs locally. I mean, don't you think that's where some of the disconnects are happening and occurring, especially with the young people, and they are unable to interact and reconcile their thoughts with your party?
I do understand that bit, but then I've also said that these, the high rocketing unemployment is not a making of the Kenya Kwanza government.
Yes.
We have had systemic issues 6 years post-independence, and that is why we find ourselves in this quagmire. It's not something that the Kenya Kwanza government, say, can just offload a whole system failure of 6 years post-independence overnight and say, well, we have created say 2 million jobs, because job creation also has a lot to do with the status of the economy, having investors coming in. Now with the recent protest, I know perhaps some of the investors might feel that, it's not stable enough to come and put their money here. It also has to do with industrialization at the local level, the counties, and how we are picking up all these things to ensure that even like we plan for the database that we have of maybe the students we are churning from universities and institutions of higher learning. So it's all these systemic issues, and they cannot, unfortunately, the truth is the Kenya Kwanza government, as much as it would do, they cannot be resolved overnight. So the president is saying, well, I do understand this is the situation. We have alternatives. It is not the best alternative, because at the end of the day, like you said, we're exporting labor. There are people who really just want to live here and work here. They don't even want to travel anywhere. But we're also saying we have these alternatives. We have the overseas jobs. We also have the digital programs. The president has spoken passionately about, I think, and I even saw it on the news today, that every ward is supposed to have a digital hub, or rather digital center. And we have these online platforms. We have Upwork, we have TranscribeMe, and all these other platforms where at least young people can get something on a contract basis. I know it's not something that's really fully tangible, but as we put these structures in place to invest in manufacturing, to ensure that we have a stable economy that supports businesses, investors, then I think the little that the president can do, he's really trying to do his best.
And then that's from that idea stems the other, touchy subject on how then the delivery of this message has been done in terms of ordinarily, because with the 2010 constitution, experts have argued that the parliament was supposed to check the executive. But when some, events like this occur where bills are being passed, as the young parliamentarians then, whereas, you represent a certain percentage that has a job, but in terms of advocating for young people interests, do you think that in your role that is coming out as expected?
I think collectively, as a house, we have around 290. No, actually, those are now the elected. And we have another extra, so it's around 340 something, or 350 members of parliament. I think the young members, the young MPs who are below 35 is myself, there's Cindy Muge, there's Lynette Tuto, and there's Joseph, I think 4 or 5, right? So you find yourself in a system that is wired to work in a certain manner, and you're a young person trying to even just, first of all, be very visible on the floor, and to get even time to speak. Out of 350 members, to just get the speaker's attention to at least articulate issues on the floor. So I think young members of parliament have really done the best that they can. But it is a system that is designed not to really allow young members maybe to bring in as much change as you'd want. You know, when I came in, I thought, well, we are going to like break down the barriers. We're going to be having all these bills. I mean, I can tell you I have 3 bills that are pending.
Yes.
None has come on the floor for first reading. I have very important bill for young people, the Kenya School of Law Amendment Bill, that seeks to ensure that there's harmonization of the KSL Act and the CLE Act, so that young people, over 3,000 students who've not been able to be admitted for ATP program can be admitted. That bill has never come for first reading. So you find that there are all these systemic challenges and issues because there's a way and a whole load of process of the way the law is made.
What would be the hurdle, for instance, because you've touched on something I wanted to ask you about later on, but you've touched on the bills. What would be the hurdle in trying to get them even to the first reading?
So basically what happens is that bills are prioritized.
Okay.
There's a committee we call the House Business Committee. If there's a government bill, it is a priority. So that is prioritized by the leader of majority. So that is, it can even be done within a week. But then if it is a private member's bill, and quite a barrage of members have bills, then you find that your bill has not been scheduled to appear on the floor of the House. So basically you have done all that you need to do. I also have the Health Amendment Bill. And you remember there's a time I spoke of the pro bono work I've done for patients who passed on and then the bodies are detained, the family is not able to cater for the bill and they've been detained for like 9-8 months, you know. We still have these very many cases. And that bill has also never come for first reading. And those are bills I initiated as soon as I got to Parliament. So you can imagine there are all these challenges. From the inside, it's very intricate. From the outside, it looks like, what are these guys doing? Like, what have they done? Why have they not done this and this and this? I had the comprehensive health education motion in regard to use and interaction of our young people with social media. I mean, it has never been implemented. So there's all these systemic failures, like I've said. And from the inside, we are doing our best. And I can speak for myself. I'm doing my best. From the outside, it might look as if, what are you guys doing? Yeah.
Yeah, and do you think then that the young people would need to, whereas there has been the advocacy for trying to fix the system, is it easy for you, for instance, in your case, let's talk about, say, the amount of money that it cost you to run your campaign. How much did it cost you?
I think I spent around maybe 5 million. Yes, and mostly it was because of the agents. Because I had to have agents at during nominations. I had a small team of around 8 people that we'd pay on a monthly basis, just going around giving cards, and then now I had to have agents on the election day. So then this process looks very expensive because the young people would, someone would, looking at the bills that you've proposed, they are mainly to benefit the young people. But as you say, the system doesn't quite seem to be favoring the existence of these young people to come and vie. In terms of correcting the ills, where would we need to start? First, we also have to point the fingers to ourselves as the electorate, because the system is also enabled by the voters. And I have often said that you find that we have, or rather we base our democracy on politics of tokenism. At mashinani level, politicians dish out money to get a vote. So once they do that, as a voter, you lose the accountability. You lose the legitimacy to question them, to tell them, hey, I voted for you so that you can represent me, legislate and oversight, and you're not doing those roles. So we also have to address the issues of politics of tokenism, because that is what makes it so hard for young people to even just first get a party ticket, because the party wants you to be funding their activities, pay party fees. I remember, I think I paid, I paid 250,000 because I was a youth. If you were not a youth, you'd pay, I think for my seat it was 500,000 if you're not a young person. So you can imagine even to 50,000 is quite a fee
amount, yes.
for young people, right? If it's, you choose not to run on a party, independent, it was around, I think, 10,000, 10 or 20,000 to IBC. So that is quite a bit manageable. But then we have all these other issues that are also part of the system and our social re-engineering and the way we're just wired to look at things. If you don't give money, George, someone else will come and they will give and they will be voted and you won't be voted, you know?
Yeah.
And I also feel that I really thank the people of Kirinyaga County because I didn't have to dish out money to get elected. So for me, I did make it, but it is an exception. There are so many other young people, vibrant candidates that I know from Sonu politics who didn't make it, even to the party nominations. I also had a party leader who chose to believe in the capacity of young people, despite other quarters wanting to field candidates who had money and, you know, the look of, you know, politics and all that.
Yeah.
So it is a defeating system, and that's why you find that people feel disappointed by the young people they vote in because the system is, it is so, it's been there for so long that it would just swallow you whole. So it's sort of like you also want to look at your longevity in politics.
Okay.
And a lot of people who get in and they're new, they are unable to strike a balance.
Indeed. And of course, we shall be getting to see now what exactly you're doing as the woman representative. And remember, the Gen Z have said, a section, they want your seat abolished. Of course, that and much more coming after this short commercial break. You're watching The Daily Report with my guest, Honorable Rep Njeri Maina, the woman representative of Kirinyaga County. We're back in a few minutes. Stay with us.